Have you ever noticed that the more you crave something, freedom, authenticity, the power to be yourself, the more it scares you to actually get it? That the thing you want most feels like the same thing holding you back? You're not alone. Fyodor Dostoevsky, one of history's greatest writers, believed this tug-of-war lives inside all of us. From Sophocles to Nietzsche, brilliant minds have wrestled with this tension. But it was Dostoevsky in Notes from Underground who cut straight to the bone. Humans crave absolute freedom, yet fear it because it strips us bare, with no safety. He said we're drawn to the chaos of choice but cling to the comfort of a cage. Why? Why do we fear what we want most? The answer lies at the core of who we are. Think about it. When you see someone with a steady life, a secure job, a predictable routine, you might envy them, but you don't feel threatened. Now picture someone who lives unbound, rejecting rules and diving into the unknown. That gets under your skin. Psychologists call it the autonomy conflict. We want to be free, but freedom forces us to face ourselves, no excuses. Dostoevsky saw this as a universal paradox. The underground man, as he called him, is someone who longs to break free but sabotages himself because he's terrified of the responsibility. And people can't stand those who shine a light on that truth. So why does this happen? Why does freedom, the thing we chase so hard, scare us so much? Let's break it down with different desires. If someone has more money, you might want that too. No judgment. If someone's stronger, you admire them without feeling small. But freedom, Dostoevsky's kind of freedom, is different. It's not external like wealth or strength. It's inside, tied to your soul. We want to choose, create, live without chains. But when someone actually does it, a painter who ditches everything, a rebel who defies norms, it hits us. It's not just jealousy, it's fear. Fear that if we tried, we might crash and burn. Dostoevsky said we'd rather have the peace of submission than the anxiety of choice. In Notes from Underground, the narrator rejects the rational logic of progress because it steals his freedom. To be irrational, to be human. He craves chaos but dreads it. That paradox isn't just his, it's ours. When we see someone grab what we want but dodge, it leaves us hollow. It's not freedom itself that spooks us, it's what it shows us about ourselves. That's why throughout history, those who chased absolute freedom of thought, of action, got pushed away. Their choices don't just challenge systems, they challenge our own cowardice. Think about times you wanted to shake things up, a job, a relationship, but stopped short. Have you ever tried sharing a deep desire, something that eats at you, only to get silence or awkwardness in return? Noticed how people switch topics when you dig past small talk? That's no accident. It's a defense mechanism. When someone lays bare their hunger for freedom, others pull back, not out of boredom, but fear of facing it too. Dostoevsky got this. He said society prizes order over truth. Look at how we admire rule followers, people who ooze certainty, even if it's shallow. Charismatic leaders, simple speeches. They thrive because they soothe us. But the questioners, the ones living freedom's paradox, get sidelined. Why? Because freedom threatens our illusion of control. Studies show people prefer predictable leaders over unpredictable visionaries. That's why game-changing ideas, from Dostoevsky and beyond, struggle to catch on. The paradox is stark. The more we chase freedom's truth, the further we drift from those who cling to safety. Is there proof? Neuroscience says yes. When we face open-ended choices, no script to follow, our brain's amygdala, the fear center, lights up. In plain terms, freedom isn't just tough, it feels like danger. Dostoevsky sensed this without a lab. He saw us as split, caught between wanting and fearing. Why does freedom trigger this primal fear? For thousands of years, survival meant sticking with the group, following rules, keeping the peace. Our ancestors lived in tribes where fitting in was safety and standing out was death. Being free, thinking for yourself, acting alone, was risky. Even now, our brains carry that wiring. When someone goes all in on freedom, like Dostoevsky's underground man, they shatter the tribal balance. They make us wonder, what if I did that? It kicks off a defensive reflex, like they're a threat, not an inspiration. That's why freedom seekers feel so alone, not because they're socially awkward, but because they defy our need to belong. A 2022 Columbia University study found something wild. One-on-one, people are curious about free-thinking ideas. But in groups, fear takes over. Why? Social stakes. No one wants to look shaky in front of others. If someone shines with authenticity, the rest dim them down to feel safe. That's why Dostoevsky, with his raw takes on freedom and suffering, was misunderstood in his time. His characters, rebels, sufferers, free spirits, mirror this clash. The underground man rejects easy happiness because it chains him. He wants freedom, but fears its cost. And we, reading it, feel the same pull. Psychologists point to biases that explain why we resist freedom. Confirmation bias. We like ideas that back up our security, not ones that shake it. Anchoring effect. We cling to what's familiar, even if it traps us. When someone like Dostoevsky throws freedom in our face, we deny or dodge it. In the digital age, this gets worse. Algorithms feed us comfort. Short videos, feel-good quotes over depth. Dostoevsky's messy, unsettling ideas don't go viral easy. His freedom demands reflection, and reflection can't keep up with the scroll. So those chasing authenticity end up on the edges. What does this mean if you feel this paradox? The fear of freedom isn't just social. It's baked into our biology, psychology, culture. It's who we are, amplified by groups and tech. But Dostoevsky didn't see it as a loss. He thought the struggle for freedom was what makes us human. In Notes from Underground, he wrote, "Man only likes to count his troubles. He can't stand other people's happiness." He saw chasing freedom as a noble burden. While most pick safety, steady relationships, cozy routines, those who want more stare into the void. But why does that desire leave us so isolated? Dostoevsky said, "We're driven by two forces, survival instinct and a hunger for meaning. Most chase pleasure and dodge pain. But the ones who want freedom, what he called the sick, hunt for truth even if it stings. That splits us apart. Where others see comfort, they see a lie. They want to break the chains, but no freedom comes with loneliness." Dostoevsky lived it. Locked up in Siberia for his ideas, he faced despair and came out with a brutal insight. Safety's a gilded cage, but freedom's a desert. Those who pick the desert get misunderstood because everyone else prefers the cage. History backs this up. Socrates died for questioning. Van Gogh painted alone. Dostoevsky himself was mocked in his day, only to be hailed a genius later. Society pushes away freedom seekers because they threaten the status quo. It's only after the dust settles that we celebrate them. Take Rosa Parks. She refused to give up her seat, fighting segregation. She wanted freedom, not just for herself, but for all. Back then, she was arrested, labeled a troublemaker. Now she's an icon. Or Giordano Bruno, burned at the stake for saying the universe was infinite. He chose freedom of thought and paid with his life. Why does society punish those chasing what we all secretly want? Because freedom takes guts, and guts expose everyone else's lack of it. Dostoevsky dug into this in Crime and Punishment. Raskolnikov kills to prove he's free, above the rules. But what does he get? Not power, guilt. The freedom he chased breaks him, because he wasn't ready for its weight. That's the paradox. We want to be free, but dread what it costs. And when someone pays that price right in front of us, we look away. Let's go deeper. In The Brothers. Karamazov Dostoevsky gives us the Grand Inquisitor, who argues people don't want freedom. They want bread and security. He tells Christ, "You burdened them with freedom. They can't handle it." The Inquisitor thinks humanity prefers being led, controlled, because freedom's too heavy. Dostoevsky doesn't buy it outright, but he makes us wonder, is he right? How often have you picked comfort over risk, swapped a dream for a sure thing? This isn't some lofty theory, it's everyday stuff. Think of someone who quits a stable job to travel the world. We admire them, but we judge. How do they pay the bills? What if it flops? We project our fears onto them because they're living what we only dream of. Dostoevsky would call that judgment an escape. In The Idiot, Prince Mishkin is pure, unbound by norms, but gets branded a fool. His freedom makes him an outsider because others can't handle his realness. Ever felt that? An outsider for wanting more? Now let's bring it to today. Modern psychology calls this existential anxiety. When we face free choices, who am I? What do I want? We freak out. Jean-Paul Sartre, inspired by Dostoevsky, said, "Man is condemned to be free. No script, and that's terrifying." Studies show that when decisions have no clear answer, our stress hormones spike, like we're in physical danger. Freedom's not just a want, it's a showdown with the abyss. Why does that abyss freeze us? Because it yanks away our crutches. Dostoevsky said we invent God, laws, traditions to avoid the void. In Demons, revolutionaries chase freedom by tearing everything down, only to end up slaves to their own chaos. The freedom they wanted swallows them, because they don't know what to do with it. Ever felt that? A desire so big it overwhelms you, but you're clueless on how to make it real. Let's dig into history again. Joan of Arc heard voices that drove her to lead armies. She wanted freedom for her nation, but got burned as a heretic. Her courage was freedom in motion, but society saw it as trouble. Or take Nelson Mandela, locked up for 27 years fighting apartheid. He wanted freedom and it cost him isolation. These stories prove it. Freedom's not rejected because it's wrong. It's just too soon. What does this say about us now? We live in an age of endless options. Where to live, what to buy, who to be. Yet we chain ourselves. We buy houses we can't afford, stick with jobs we hate, follow trends that aren't us. Why safety's addictive? Dostoevsky would say we're underground, digging deeper instead of climbing out. Social media makes it worse. Likes and validation keep us caged, while real freedom, posting what you truly think, opens you up to judgment. But there's a flip side. Dostoevsky's philosophy isn't all doom, it's hope in disguise. He believed suffering makes us human. In Memoirs from the House of the Dead, based on his prison time, he shows the real punishment wasn't hard labor. It was losing inner freedom. Even in chains, he found meaning in resisting. So here's a thought. What if fearing freedom is the first step to grabbing it? Think of Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor. In Man's Search for Meaning, he says our last freedom is choosing how we face suffering. Influenced by Dostoevsky, Frankl saw that even in the worst prison, your mind can be free. Ever had that? A moment where, despite fear, you chased what you wanted? Maybe it was tiny, saying no, switching paths, but it tasted like freedom. So how do you live this paradox? Dostoevsky wasn't big on how-tos, but his characters show us. Raskolnikov finds redemption by owning his consequences. Myshkin lives his truth, even mocked. The underground man warns, deny your desire and you're dead inside. Maybe it's about balance, embracing freedom bit by bit, not drowning in chaos. Start small, an honest talk, a calculated risk. Freedom doesn't have to be all or nothing. And society, it's never ready for the free. But Dostoevsky says we don't need it. In The Brothers Karamazov, Alyosha picks kindness in a cruel world. He's free because he doesn't need approval. You can too. Find the ones who get it. Friends, books, communities. Don't shove your freedom on others. Save it for those who deserve it. Let's chew on this more. Dostoevsky's freedom isn't just rebellion, it's responsibility. We want to soar, but fear the fall. What if fear's a signpost, a guide? Studies say facing fear in small doses, like public speaking or shaking up your routine, cuts anxiety over time. Maybe freedom's a muscle. The more you flex it, the stronger it gets. Ever tried that? A step outside the cage? Look at Dostoevsky himself. He wrote his best stuff after prison, turning fear into art. His life screams, what scares you can be your strength. Society might reject it, but history cheers. So if you feel this paradox, don't quit. Freedoms. Desert is lonely, but it's where you find yourself. Let's push further. What would Dostoevsky say about our world today? We're in the distraction era. Screens, pings, constant noise. We want freedom, but drown in choices we don't take. In Notes from Underground, the narrator ditches the Crystal Palace and an irrational utopia with no soul. Today, that's the algorithm. It hands us what we want before we ask, stealing our chance to search. Ever felt that? A hollowness you can't pin down? Back to history. Spartacus, the slave who sparked a revolt against Rome, wanted freedom, not just for himself, but thousands. It got him killed, but his name lives on. Or Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein at 19, defying her era's norms. Her creative freedom isolated her, but reshaped literature. These rebels paid big, but showed desire. Even feared leaves a mark. Science chimes in. Recent self-determination theory research says freedom, or autonomy, is as basic a need as food or shelter, but when it's blocked or we avoid it, we slide into apathy. Dostoevsky saw this coming. The underground man's apathy comes from rejecting his own freedom. Ever had that? A day you wanted change but just sat there. Let's hit existentialism. Kierkegaard, around Dostoevsky's time, called it the dizziness of freedom. He said endless choices spark dread. Dostoevsky'd nod but add, that dread's what keeps us alive. In The Double, the hero goes nuts facing his buried freedom. It's a heads up. Ignore your wants and they'll eat you alive. Art? Dostoevsky's. Freedom fueled Kafka, Camus, even movies. Think Fight Club, where Tyler Durden wrecks everything to break free. They all hit the same note. We crave chaos, but fear the ashes. Ever felt that in yourself? A urge to smash it all, then a pullback? Now the practical side. How did Dostoevsky deal, he wrote. Turned fear into words. Maybe you can too. A journal, a song, a sketch. Freedom doesn't need to be loud. It can whisper. Positive psychology says expressing desires, even quietly, shrinks fear. Tried that? A moment just for you? Education? We're taught to obey, not choose. Dostoevsky'd say school's the first underground. We memorize, don't question. Ever think about it? How often did you swallow a yes to avoid a no? Freedom starts with what if, said that today. Pop culture. Movies like The Matrix nail the paradox. Neo wants truth but balks at it. Red pill's freedom, blue's safety. Dostoevsky'd say we all pause at that fork. Ever picked blue for comfort? Or red, knowing the price, the future? AI promises freedom, time, options, ease. But Dostoevsky'd warn, machines could trap us, deeper underground, choosing for us. We want to offload freedom, but is that freedom? Would you trust your soul to code? Spirituality? Dostoevsky was Christian but doubted. In The Brothers Karamazov, Ivan ditches God over suffering. He wants freedom from the divine, but fears the emptiness left behind. Felt that? A pull to rise. Above, but dread of the quiet. Digging deeper now. The French Revolution shouted liberty, equality, fraternity, but ended in guillotines. They wanted freedom. Fear of chaos birthed tyranny. Dostoevsky'd say that's us. We chase the ideal but flinch at the cost. Seen that in today's movements? Change morphing into sameness? Economy? Capitalism sells freedom. Buy what you want. Be who you want. Dostoevsky'd spot the catch. We're free to pick only what the system offers. Felt that? Wanting something but stuck with what's on the shelf? Sociology? Emil Durkheim talked anomie. Norms collapse. Despair creeps in. Dostoevsky'd say absolute freedom's anomic. No rules, we're lost. But he'd also say no risk, no life. Ever felt that anomie? Adrift with no compass, literature? Shakespeare's Hamlet wants freedom to avenge his dad, but stalls. His freeze is Dostoevsky's. Paradox, desire versus fear. Or Orwell's 1984. Winston craves freedom, gets crushed by it. Read anything that hit you like that, childhood? Kids are free, dreaming, creating, defying. We grow up and lose it. Dostoevsky'd say society trains us to fear that natural freedom. Ever watched a kid and envied their guts? When do you drop yours, music? Beethoven wrote his wildest symphonies going deaf. His freedom came from isolation, like Dostoevsky's in prison. Art's born from the paradox, we want to make, but fear. The silence before. Ever made something like that? A roar against fear. Body? Dostoevsky's freedom's mental but physical too. We want to run, dance, live limitless, but fear exhaustion, pain. Studies say exercise cuts fear. A free body frees the mind. Felt that? A step that let you breathe? Politics? Dictatorships promise safety, democracies freedom. Both flop. One locks you up, the other bewilders. Dostoevsky'd say we fear freedom even in democracy. We vote predictable. Ever picked safe over new? Nature? A bird flies free, but nests. We want the sky, but fear the wind. Dostoevsky'd say we're like that, winged but tied down. Ever stared at the sky wanting to fly? What held you, so what's the move? Dostoevsky gives questions, not answers, but he hints. Face the fear. Don't run from desire. Start small. A no where you'd say yes. A step where you'd stand still. Freedom's a fire. It burns, but it lights the way. Lit that spark yet? If you've ever feared what you want most, you're not alone. Society doesn't fear freedom. It fears what it demands of us. Dostoevsky reminds us, safeties for surviving, freedoms for living. Drop in the comments, ever feared what you craved. Let's talk.